Order. This is the MPOJC Urbanized Area Policy Board, Wednesday, May 21st at 8 p.m. And we're at the City of Coralville City Hall Council Chambers. Thanks, Coralville, for your lovely accommodations. We recognize alternates.
Yeah, so we've got Jeff Bruin, Kurt Lehman, and Eric Goers who are taking place of our Iowa City Council members tonight. Unbeknownst to me, there's a greater Iowa City State of the Downtown meeting tonight. So they are unable to join us, but I appreciate their assistance. Also, Eric Sittig for Chris Hoffman of North Liberty, and I believe that's it.
Should we be at that?
Thanks, everyone. We'll consider approval of meeting minutes of April 2nd. They were circulated. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Brian. All in favor, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, Kent, set next board meeting date.
Yeah, so tentatively, I've got July 9th as our next meeting date, and it'll be at 4:30. It's the last Wednesday before our Transportation Improvement Program is due, July 15th. So that works best for us, and I'm still working out the details, but I believe it will be down at Johnson County. So I'll do the same thing I normally do. I'll send out the save the date about a month before the meeting with a tentative agenda.
Thank you, Kent. Public discussion of any item not on the agenda. Is there anything? No. Kent, did you have anything?
No.
Sometimes you do.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, we'll go to transportation planning. Consider approval of draft 25 FY 26 to 29 MPOJC Transportation Improvement Program projects. Welcome, Hannah.
Thank you, Louise. Good afternoon. Hannah Neal, Associate Transportation Planner. The Annual Transportation Improvement Program, or TIP, is our programming document covering the 4-year period from FY 26 to FY 29. The TIP includes all federally funded transportation projects for road and transit and includes state and local projects. The FY 26 to 29 TIP project list was attached to your memo. Iowa DOT has added a new project. In 2029, $1 in NHPP or National Highway Performance Program funding and just over $1 million in PRF funding for a culvert extension project along I-380 north of Swan Lake Road to north of County Road F12, 120th Street. As you may recall, we award Surface Transportation Block Grant Program funding. We also award Transportation Alternative Program funding and now carbon reduction funding every 2 years. At your March meeting, you awarded funding to 9 projects per the Transportation Technical Advisory Committee's recommendation. These projects include North Liberty and Coralville's Forever Green Road Extension Phase 2 project, which was awarded $838,884 in STBG funds, and this was programmed in FY 29. Iowa City and University of Iowa's Burlington Street Bridge Building Better Connections project, which was awarded $9,574,243 in STBG funds and $425,757 in TAP funding, programmed in FY 30. Because these funds will be programmed in FY 30 and this TIP only goes to FY 29, these projects will be programmed in next year's TIP, or will be included in next year's TIP. Next up, we have Iowa City's North Dodge Street Improvements Pedestrian Facilities Project, which was awarded $565,372 in TAP funding, programmed in FY 27. North Liberty's West Forever Green Road Trail project from Covered Bridge Road to South Jasper Avenue, which was awarded $465,500 in TAP funding, programmed again in FY 27. Coralville's North Ridge Trail Reconstruction Project, awarded $303,620 in TAP funds, programmed in FY 28. Coralville's Iowa River Trail Connection Project, awarded $347,750 in TAP funding, programmed in FY 29. University Heights Melrose Avenue Complete Streets Project, awarded $750,000 in CRP funds, programmed in FY26. Coralville and Johnson County's Dubuque Street Northeast and Forever Green Road Roundabout Project, awarded $612,209 in CRP funds, programmed in FY26. And last but not least, North Liberty's Dubuque Street Improvements Phase 3 project to be programmed in FY 2030. And it was awarded $1,715,000 in CRP funds. And again, because these funds are awarded in FY 30 and this TIP only goes to FY 29, this project will be included in next year's TIP. Okay, moving on to transit. This section mainly includes buses and equipment replacement, as well as funding for new transit facilities or transit facility upgrades for all three of our transit systems, University of Iowa CAMBUS, Coralville Transit, and Iowa City Transit. Coralville has included 16 buses, 2 of which are light-duty electric expansion buses. Iowa City has included 26 buses, 2 of which are hybrid diesel battery electric buses, and 10 of which are heavy-duty electric replacement buses with charging equipment. And CAMBUS has included 17 buses, 6 of which are heavy-duty electric replacements. Today, we're asking for approval of the draft FY 26 to 29 MPOJC TIP projects. And like Kent said, the draft TIP will be submitted to Iowa DOT for review by June 15th, and the MPO will begin the public input process prior to the final approval of the TIP in July, which will happen after our July meeting. I'm happy to answer any questions at this time.
Yeah, so the significance of the TIP, I think most of you know, is that we've got to have the right dollar amount for the right project in the right year, and if it's not, then of course the federal funds aren't available to us, so we've got to be really careful about that. This year, of course, was a little bit more difficult than years past because we had the additional funding source, which was the carbon reduction program. Also, our years didn't align as neatly with funding sources they have in the past because of the new transportation bill. So you've heard some of these numbers a couple different times in a couple of different ways. But like Hannah mentioned, you'll get the entire transportation improvement program at your next meeting for final approval. But we have to get this list to our federal partners by the 15th of June for their initial review. So we also, as Hannah mentioned, we worked with Transportation Technical Advisory Committee last week to do this very same thing and make sure that all the programs are aligned in the right places in the right time. So we think we've got it, at least in draft form, in good enough shape for the DOT. Happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Yeah. Any other questions? Okay, so we can consider approval of the draft 26-29 MPOJC TIP projects. Is there a motion?
I have motion.
Okay, motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Brian. Okay, discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We'll go to consideration of resolution approving the MPOJC 26 Transportation Planning Work Program.
Yeah, thank you. That one's mine. Kent Ralston, Executive Director. Thanks, everyone, for coming. Good to see you tonight. Attached in your packet is a draft copy of the MPOJC FY26 Transportation Planning Work Program for your review. The work program includes all locally requested projects that we receive from you and your staffs, as well as general projects and procedures required by our federal partners, the Iowa DOT, the Federal Highway Administration, and the Federal Transit Administration. And besides being a federal requirement, we also rely, of course, on our work program to guide our data collection and manage our workflow throughout the year. In addition to actual projects that we'll be working on, if you thumb through the work program, it also includes board and committee rosters, a breakdown of the federal funds we receive, and a breakdown of where those funds are spent in some of our different program areas, whether it's comprehensive planning, short-term planning, long-term planning, traffic engineering, those types of work program items. Also includes an updated planning boundary. We updated our planning boundary a few meetings ago based on the 2020 census data that we received. And the significance of that is we can only spend the MPO's funds within that planning boundary. So you'll also find a new planning boundary in the work program. What we ask from you tonight is that you please review the document and let us know if you'd like to see any modifications before we send this to our federal partners. for final approval. And then, of course, we continue to take requests throughout the next fiscal year and complete those projects as time allows. As I typically mention, the projects that are in the work program probably only represent about a quarter or so of the work we actually do in any given year, because probably not a week or certainly not a month goes by without one of our staffs talking to one of your staff. So for various projects and things that come up throughout the year. It's difficult for us to go to your staffs and ask them what they're going to work on for the upcoming year, as you can imagine. So it's also difficult for them to tell us that same thing and what work we're going to do for them. At their May 13th meeting just last week, the Transportation Technical Advisory Committee unanimously recommended approval of the work program. And unless there's any questions, we ask for approval of the work program tonight. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
I just have one comment.
Sure.
I noticed on page 8 that my name is misspelled.
Uh-oh. That's embarrassing.
It's TT, not DT. Just a minor thing.
Oh, I see that. Thanks, Greg. Sorry about that.
Any other questions for Kent? Okay, so we'll consider a resolution for the MPOJC FY26 Transportation Planning Work Program. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Rod. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Jeff. Okay, discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Then we'll go to C, 3C, consider a resolution regarding federal functional classification designations for urbanized area roadways. Thank you, Emily.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Emily Bothell, Senior Associate Transportation Planner. In March, the Policy Board approved the allocation of approximately $10 million in surface transportation block grant funding for 2 local projects, including the Forever Green Road Extension Phase 2 project. To program this project in the Transportation Improvement Program, which Hannah had just talked about, the project must be classified under the Federal Functional Classification System. We submitted the request to the Iowa DOT for preliminary approval, and we received that for the FFC system map for the Iowa City urbanized area as follows. So the first amendment is to change the segment of Forever Green Road between Ranshaw Way and Coral Ridge Avenue. This is near the new University of Iowa Hospital, to 12th Avenue from a collector to a minor arterial. And the second amendment is to add the segment of Forever Green Road from 12th Avenue to Dubuque Street Northeast as a minor arterial. So with these amendments, Forever Green Road will be classified as a minor arterial from the I-380 ramps all the way east to Dubuque Street Northeast. At their May 13th meeting, the Technical Advisory Committee unanimously recommended approval of the amendment as described. And I did want to note that in the memo to the Advisory Committee, I had the wrong termini, but I did verbalize the correct termini at the meeting, and that is what they voted on. So today we are asking for approval of the attached resolution and for the resolution to be submitted to the Iowa DOT, indicating a formal request by the Policy Board. Once the DOT approves the amendment, it will then be forwarded on to the FHWA for final approval. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
So for us, this is just a bit of housekeeping. We've got to make sure all these things are aligned, like Emily mentioned, so that we can utilize the funds that are in our TIP, which you had all just approved.
Okay.
Any questions?
If there are no more questions, we'll consider a resolution regarding this federal functional classification designations for urbanized area roadways. Is there a motion?
Move approval.
Okay, motion by V. Is there a second?
Second?
Second by Kirk. Discussion. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. We have now 3D, update on the Safe Streets and Roads for All Safety Action Plan. Hi, Sarah.
Hi, Sarah Walls, Transportation Planner. In December 2023, the U.S. Department of Transportation awarded the MPO a $300,000 grant to develop a safety action plan. With that plan in place, communities in the MPO would be eligible for additional funding through demonstration and implementation grants aimed at addressing factors that contribute to serious and fatal roadway crashes. That was quite some time ago, and now on January 10th, the MPO issued a request for proposal seeking consultants to help us with that plan, and with the assistance of the Technical Advisory Committee, we've selected HDR to assist us with the plan. We're finalizing the contract with that chosen firm, and the work on the plan will get underway this summer, and our goal is to have a final draft plan before you next July 2026.
And you've heard us talk about this several times, but because of the amount of time that's lapsed
Yeah.
since we received the grant, we want to make sure everybody was in the know. Also, we've been working with your city administration because there is a local match for this, so we've been working with them as well. We've got the local matches worked out, and we'll be invoicing them as soon as we get HDR up and running and get the plan moving forward.
Yeah, and that will sort of overlap with the work that we'll be doing on the long-range transportation plan, so I think that will really help us get to a really good plan together.
Yeah, this is an exciting project, and if you remember, we've talked about this before. This, if the funding is still there, opens us up for implementation grants. So once we have the action plan in place and we sort of know where our hot spots are for vulnerable road users, we can then in turn go after some of that additional money, which is really exciting. So more to come on that. Hopefully that funding's still available. Any questions?
Sarah, what might be some of the things that other places have used the money for? Like, what are some of the changes that they make once they get the data? And
Well, it's all kinds of stuff, but even on the state level, the TSIP grant, the Transportation Safety Improvement Program, is a grant that we can apply for. It could be all kinds of countermeasures. Everything, I think, probably from 4 to 3 lane conversions, which we've had a lot of here.
Yeah, it could be pedestrian
Yeah.
refuge islands, rebuilding intersections to shorten crossing distances for pedestrians. It could be additional guardrails if there's, because it includes motorists as well. Really anything that we can identify that's a need to improve safety. As Sarah mentioned, there are additional grant sources that already exist outside of this new program that we could also go after funds for. So I think it'll be really useful. And that's a good point, because even if the funds aren't available in the Safe Streets and Roads for All world, there will be other grants that we can still go after, and the study will still be very useful.
So for example, in the TSIP grant, the application, one of the things they ask is if this project is something that was identified in a safety action plan. So it would, I guess, give you points under that criteria.
And even if we can't go after grant funds, this will still illuminate our safety issues that we have, and, we can use any of our traditional local sources from our communities to fix the problems as well, so.
I'm just thinking, I'm a huge fan of those, I think we've talked about this, but I'm a huge fan of those yield to pedestrian signs in the middle of Market and Jefferson. I think they make a remarkable difference, just having those there.
Yep.
And doesn't seem very costly.
Right, they don't have to be huge
Yeah.
projects, right? It's a good point.
Question is HDR, is that, are they going to be collecting data that we don't have currently? And if so, what is that? Or is it more of just an analysis of existing data sources?
They will have some data that we don't have. Mostly they're going to be relying on data that we provide them and data that's available through the DOT, but they'll be putting it through a different analysis process that won't just look at hot spots like where crashes have occurred, but places where crashes might be likely to occur.
Yeah, primarily, yeah, Sarah's right, primarily data we have, but not, so the Safe Streets and Roads for All action plan is for the entire urbanized area. So that's a good question, Jeff, because some communities have better data sets for like sidewalks, for instance, than others. So primarily they'll use the data we have, but I think they'll have to collect some data to fill in the gaps.
Well, even just thinking of communities like Tiffin and some areas in North Liberty that are growing.
Right.
You're going to need to look at those projections as well.
Yep. And we just had a meeting actually with them, kind of a kickoff meeting earlier this week, and MPO staff will help fill some of those gaps too. Yep.
Thank you.
Yep, it's a good question.
Thanks, Sarah. Are you going to talk about the
I am.
metro area trail counts?
Yes, the metro area trail counts. So each year, the MPO conducts bicycle and pedestrian counts along the regional trail network, and we don't go out and physically count them, but we have a little contraption. This is what it looks like. It's put inside a metal box, and I would have brought one of those, but all of our counters are out. This is an old broken one. So this will measure anything that passes by. It doesn't differentiate whether it's a pedestrian or a bicyclist, but it'll just give us a count of trips, of who is passing by there. So we can install that anywhere along the trail system where we have a Telspar post, one of those metal posts with holes in it, as long as we can point it in a way that it's not picking up background traffic or there's not vegetation in front of it or something like that. So for the last, for a long time, we were just doing weekly and bi-weekly counts along segments of the trail, but we have enough trail counters now that we can do season-long counts. So for a couple years now, we've been doing season-long counts. The counts that are in your packet are from last year along the Iowa River Corridor Trail and the North Liberty and North Ridge Trail, which is now just the North Ridge Trail. It has the same name throughout. Next year, the map shows you, and there's the list of locations where we're going to count season-long along the Clear Creek Trail and along the Iowa River Corridor Trail at Crandick Park and along Highway 1 and Highway 6 Trail in Iowa City. So we hope that what the trail counts are good for, well, we know one thing that they're good for is when we do grant applications, it's helpful to have in there how much activity is happening along the trail. We can also use the counter in some places where there are not yet trails if you're applying for a grant to get one. We've done this a couple of these recently for Iowa City. We've also looked at sort of before and after. We did some counts for Coralville recently for the new underpass along First Avenue under the new I-80 interchange. So when communities have a need for that, we can do those counts, and there are other ways we can get data as well. But hopefully these numbers are also useful for you in promoting bicycle and pedestrian activity in your communities, and also for development and some of your businesses. If you look at those numbers along the trail, that's a lot of people moving along the trails, and we're getting to a place in our trail system where now you could get on a bike on the south end of Iowa City at Terry Trueblood, and with just a short little bit on Normandy Drive where nobody lives anymore, you can ride all the way out then to the Clear Creek Trail, all the way out through Tiffin. In another couple of years, the trail will be completed all the way to Kent Park. Similarly, you can start at Terry Trueblood and ride all the way north to Mahaffey Bridge, all on trail. Little on-street route, get up to Solon, connect with the Hoover Nature Trail, and you can continue on all the way through Cedar Falls. So that's pretty impressive, and we think that will bring a real opportunity for bicycle tourism to the region. So exciting stuff.
Yeah, this is really exciting for us, as transportation planners, to see some of these counts, upwards of 2,000 and 3,000 pedestrians a week on some of these. You break that down, that might be 500 a day. We've got, in some of these cases, then we've got more bikes and peds on our trails than we do cars on some of our streets. And that's probably true for all of our communities where you've got maybe 500 or less cars on a local street. So it's pretty exciting. And whenever I get the chance, I always say, for me, I think we've probably got one of the best bike and ped networks, probably in the Midwest, I would say. Certainly our separated trails. It's got to be one of the best in the Midwest, honestly. And I feel like we've kind of reached a critical point where we've got enough of it now. We're really starting to see an uptick in people using them and using them more often. So it's really exciting, and it's a testament to all the funds and all the decisions that policymakers have made for decades now. But I think it's finally sort of reached that critical point where we're really starting to see a return on investment.
I would also just say with some of our local trails that are in all of our communities, I had shared with one of the Parks and Rec directors earlier this week that I was out on one particular trail early in the morning because I wanted to check something out, and the number of senior citizens, truly senior citizens that were out there, some with 8 devices, one person on oxygen, and I just said that's kind of the gold standard, because now you are creating a place that's safe enough, level enough, accessible enough that people can stay active in the area of their community throughout their lifetime. That's something we don't capture on a counter, but if you get out in the trails, that's what you'll see. Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. We'll go to other business. I'll just say we're having a bike breakfast in University Heights tomorrow morning from 7 to 9. If you're biking by, running by, driving by, stop by and have some nice hot coffee. And the bagels are toasted with salmon and really good time. Stop over. Is there any other business? Is there a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second? Second? Okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.